Reacher Season 2 has come to an end, and we can all point and laugh at it and mock it with every fiber of our beings. No, it wasn't all bad, Reacher Season 2. It was just mostly bad. I don't know, I guess I kept hoping every episode that it would get better, and it did the opposite of that. Reacher walks up to the New Age building at the end of episode 7, unarmed by himself, to meet Langston and his goons. And, they're playing that boppity bop song, Let the Man Move Through or whatever. And it's like this, oh, he's a badass, but it's a terrible plan. Here's what I would do if I were Langston and his goons. I would shoot him, either right as he walked up in plain sight, or as soon as he got into the building, I would shoot him. Once you have him bound, handcuffed, I would shoot him. The gimmick of having to dump everyone out of helicopters is just a gimmick. It's so stupid. I mean, it was one thing when they were trying to cover up some stuff before their plan was blown open. It was one thing to I don't know, it was not even a good idea then. Let's be honest. A better idea than dumping bodies from a helicopter where they can be found is to bury them. Burn them. I mean, you have all these resources. Dump them in the ocean. You have a fucking helicopter and you're in New York. Fly out there over the ocean and dump the bodies. There are so many ways to dispose of bodies, but in this instance, do you really need to take 3 people? I mean, you've already dropped a couple bodies. You think that dropping 3 more bodies from a helicopter is going to be, avoid suspicion? And if your plan is to leave the country at this point anyways, because shit's gotten so hot, why are you worried about leaving forensics? I mean, it's a lot less forensic evidence when you just put 1 bullet in a guy's skull than an entire shootout in a building. It's so preposterous. And yeah, I know the books can be a little preposterous too. They can be a little unrealistic. Absolutely. Reacher himself as a character is pretty unrealistic. This 6'5", muscled Sherlock Holmes, basically. Reacher is kind of an unrealistic character. But at least in the books, Reacher has to think. He has to think first. He doesn't just waltz into a building and beat everybody up with his feet. Now, granted, that was kind of a fun fight scene where he's fighting everybody in his handcuffs, so he's just kicking and headbutting everybody. But it's so dumb that they all run in one at a time. Then nobody has a taser. If they don't want to shoot the guy, they could have tasers or cattle prods, or I don't know, tranquilizers. There are a lot of other ways you can take down an elephant, right? Reacher goes in. And pretty soon then Senator Lavoie's trio of special ops people show up, and there's a big shootout. Now later this trio will double cross Reacher, because you got to have a double cross, but then he'll double cross them. It's a double cross people, and he is called Homeland Security to show up at the engineer's house. Why didn't he call Homeland Security to show up, where the bad guys were in the beginning, where they knew they would be? I mean, huh? What? When did he call them exactly? Once he found out where the engineer's house was? Why would you wait that long? It makes no sense. There are so many things about this episode that make no sense. Langston escapes onto the helicopter first he has them load up Dixon and O'Donnell, and he's like, bye, take care of this guy, load him up next. And then of course Reacher escapes, right? Then once he's on the helicopter, the pilot's like, I know this helicopter's been running for a while, but it needs a few minutes to warm up. Just enough time for Reacher to jump on, right? At the last minute, so that he's there to save the day. There's so many really random bits of dialogue. They didn't need to include that. They could have just had Reacher get on there on time, There's a whole scene where Langston and one of his goons, they're getting, there's the shootouts going on, and he's like, Well, what now? Well, we need to leave the country, and what about those other guys? Oh, fuck them. And there's this whole, like, there's a lot more to it. There's this whole, like, little conversation while bullets are flying, and it's like, you don't need to tell us all this. This is all just really weirdly placed exposition in the middle of a gunfight. We know the bad guys are running away. We know that they don't care about the other guys. None of that matters. Like, just run to the fucking helicopter and get away. You don't need to say what you're doing. Speaking of which, all the monologuing, my God, have they never watched the Incredibles? You know, the villains always, that's decades old now, and they're making fun of villains monologuing, and that's probably, I know that's not the first time, it's just the one that comes to mind. I mean, this device, the villain monologuing, oh, here was our plan, and da-da-da-da-da, we're so smart. Just shoot him! Just shoot him! Like, oh my God. You'd think at this point in time, with this many, shows and movies, behind us, and the lessons of the past to learn from, that you when you're writing a script, okay? I'm not a script writer, but I'm going to give a little bit of advice here. When you're writing a script and your hero is strong and smart and tough, you cannot make the bad guy stupid. You have to say, okay, what would a smart bad guy do in this moment? And now, how is our hero going to get out of this one, folks? A smart bad guy doesn't just wait around for the good guy to come beat them up. They don't just let them waltz up. They don't restrain them and then not either kill them or further restrain them or knock them out or drug them or whatever. You've got to have something actually difficult and challenging and imposing, obstacles that heroes have to overcome, not just bad guys who do dumb things. Like, the plot armor in this season is horrible. None of the heroes die. Russo dies. Okay, he dies in a really stupid way, though. None of the special investigators die, and you don't mess with the special investigators. In an investigation, assumptions kill. Details matter. Did I ever tell you you're smart, Neely? The whole fucking season is just catchphrases. It's so... there's no character development. Everyone's got plot armor, and they talk in catchphrases. It's like batteries not included. Anyways, my point being, at every turn, the heroes get away with it because the bad guys are stupid. And that's not very interesting. It doesn't create very much tension. For instance, the helicopter scene. Reacher gets up there, and he starts fighting with these guys. Generic Goon and Langston, who's generic villain, let's face it. He's the most generic villain there ever was, and he's doing all this for $65 million, which isn't that much money, actually. But anyways, they're fighting on this helicopter, and O'Donnell, in her gurney, goes over the edge, and Reacher grabs it and holds on. Reacher has been stabbed, and but anyways, he's so strong that he can hold on to a, I don't know how many 100-pound gurney with O'Donnell in it, while Langston kicks him. Now, Langston kicks him for a while, then tells his goon to take care of him. Somehow, O'Donnell is now managing to free herself from her bonds while hanging over the air in a helicopter, flying over the hundreds of feet in the air. She manages to free herself from her bonds, while the thug is on top of Reacher, and he's like giving him a choice. I can hit you on the head with these steel or these brass knuckles, or you can let the gurney go. And then, of course, O'Donnell climbs up and stabs the guy. Again, just why are you talking? If you were this bad guy and you'd been fighting Jack fucking Reacher, who has knocked a whole team of your people down with his legs and head moments earlier, who's killed countless of your friends, and would you just talk to him, giving him a choice? Let her go, or I'm going to beat you in the head with these brass knuckles. If you're writing a script, have the bad guys do the thing that bad guys would instinctually do. Maybe that can be their downfall, right? Maybe he goes to beat the head in without talking about it. He just goes to bash Reacher's head in, and Reacher, I don't know, does a cool move and flings him out of the helicopter. Can't be that hard to make it more interesting and tense. Here's one thing I was thinking about. I was trying to think, like, how would I write this scene? Let's say they're in the helicopter like this. Well, let's say that instead of O'Donnell freeing herself while hanging there, because that's just absurd. Let's say that when I'm sorry, Dixon. I'm getting their names mixed up because the D's confuse my brain. The double D's. Sorry. The chick is hanging in the air. The dude, he's tipped himself over to stop Langston at one point, right? Well, let's say that when he tipped himself over, he got the knife and he cut himself free. And now when the bad guy goes to stop Reacher from pulling Dixon back into the helicopter, now he gets up there and he is fighting with this bad guy and the knife. And now I'm picturing the scene, a great scene, a terrible scene from Saving Private Ryan, where there's that knife fight and it ends very, very badly for the good guys. But let's say that's the scene that's happening right now. They're fighting with this knife. Reacher's trying to pull Dixon back up into the helicopter. And so you've got this moment of tension, right? Can he pull her back up in time? Because O'Donnell is hurt. He's been shot and they've dug around him with a knife. He's in real bad shape. In the show, he's not. In the show, it's but a flesh wound. But in real life, if you'd been shot in the stomach and then they used a knife to dig the bullet out, you would barely be functioning. So he's not functioning well. He's fighting this guy in the helicopter. They're wrestling around on the ground. Let's say Langston's in the cockpit or something. I don't know. Langston's been knocked senseless at this point. He's not out for good, but he's out right now. He's going to wake up soon. You have this ticking clock, right? The helicopter, can Reacher even hold on long enough? Maybe he's trying to, like, cut her free with his other hand. I don't know. There's something going on. He's trying to get her back up. O'Donnell's fighting the guy. O'Donnell loses, right? And the guy kills him. He kills O'Donnell because we can have a good guy die in this. It actually raises the stakes a little bit. You don't need to have all the good guys survive. But anyway, he kills him. He pushes him off of him, and he starts to go forward. And at that moment, Reacher pulls Dixon back up. I don't know. You have a scene with some tension and some like stakes and some worry. You're sitting on the edge of your seat. Will they do it in time? Oh no, he killed O'Donnell. There's not going to be a totally happy ending now. And then, okay, good. He survives. Dixon's back up. Dude goes off the helicopter. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. That's my scene. That's my helicopter scene. Now, that's just me off the top of my head, basically, writing the scene a little bit better. Obviously, there's way more you could do with it with a little bit of time. This whole season feels like a first draft where nobody actually thought, hey, how does this work? Does this create tension? Is there a consequence? You know, what is the ticking clock? What is making audiences worry? You know, what is keeping them invested? What is creating tension? No one thought about these things. They're just like, hey, let's have people do cool stuff. Reacher does cool stuff. You know, bad guy monologues. Reacher does cool stuff. Dixon stabs him. She climbs up and stabs him. Cool. Oh, fucking written by a bunch of fucking fourth grade meatheads. Yeah. Your writing team sucks balls. I'm sorry. Okay. Then he throws Langston out of the helicopter. Just like that. Mind you, he tortured the guy in the hospital and then killed him with an air bubble embolism. He doesn't even bother to, like, break Langston's legs or anything. Like, Reacher's all over the place. One episode, he's a serious sociopath. And the next, he's just like, whatever, I don't care that much. I'm just going to throw you out of the helicopter. And we'll get to the next bit. They have the pilot take them to the meetup spot, the engineer's house. And AM shows up, the arms dealer. Now, AM's been in every episode of this season. They've been building up his character as this extremely smart, suave, well-spoken, observant guy. He notices when they're watching for him at the airport. And so he drives the whole way across country under an assumed identity. And he kills people with his little tiny knife. He shows up at the house, doesn't notice anything's wrong, is immediately captured by the good guys, tries to monologue his way out of it, and they all shoot him. They all shoot him at once, like a dozen times each. Like, standing in a row, like this is the end of a Quentin Tarantino movie, but it's just not earned, you know? This is not, you barely get, what was the point of this bad guy? What was the point of AM in the first place? Why was he even part of this season? He just gets there, and then they kill him, and that's it. It's so unsatisfying. The real fucked up way of killing people, however, is reserved for the pilot and the engineer, who for whatever reason, they're like, hey, yeah, you can go free. It's cool. You were part of this. You probably should go to jail, but it's cool. Just go ahead and go free. And then, of course, you see Neely with the rocket launcher, and they shoot him out of the sky. They shoot him in their helicopter as they fly away. They give these guys freedom to leave. And then they shoot them out of the air in New York State over the Hudson River with a rocket launcher. And it's like, it's cool, no big deal. That's fine. It's not only fucked up and sadistic, it's stupid because these are two of maybe the last possible witnesses who can be, interrogated and help bring this whole thing to a head. Like, do they not need somebody to actually talk to about what happened? Do they not need witnesses? Is it not better to have some people go to jail? This is again, this is written by a bunch of fourth graders, who are just like, oh, vengeance is cool. We should do vengeance stuff. Cool vengeance thing. Blow helicopter up. I'm sorry. This is the worst show since Fear the Walking Dead. It's so bad this season. And the reason that I'm so pissed about it is because season 1 was really good. It was a really good show in every way. In every way, it was better. Cinematography, choreography, just the characters, the writing. It followed the book very closely. To its benefit, as following the source material usually does. Reacher wasn't a sociopath. I mean, he was violent, and he would use violence and killing to achieve his goals. But he wasn't a sociopath, and he wasn't surrounded by a team of feckless fucking idiots who can't die, but you wish they would. This isn't the end, though. There's the double cross. And then the Homeland Security guy shows up with all his people, and they're like, oh, you can call the senator. And he's like, hey, senator, you're in trouble now, guy. And then Reacher leaves, and the Homeland Security guy is like, hey, yo, buddy, what about the money? And Reacher's like, what money? And then the Homeland Security guy's like, wink, wink. They all wink, wink. It's only $65 million. I mean, it's just a rounding error, really. I said earlier 65 million is not a lot. But when it comes to evidence in a fucking giant conspiracy that deals with Homeland Security, yeah, $65 million is a lot of money. A lot of very traceable money, a lot of money that, Reacher ends up giving it all away. All he needs is a new toothbrush, guys. That gimmick isn't being played out to death this season. But he gives it, to the survivors of the various people killed, and he puts it in their bank accounts, and it's like, if somebody suddenly has a few $1 million in their bank account, yeah, they're getting audited. That money's probably going to get taken away. Did you launder it? No. What was it, bearer bonds or something, some stupid gimmick? It's just a preposterous They did not need to include that. It's also sort of cheesy and sort of saccharine. A little bit of this oh, we're such do-gooders. We went and helped all the victims of the families of the victims with this money that's supposed to go to the bad guys. Give me a fucking break. You don't even need that stuff. You don't even need to include that. Why even include that? The money goes to the government. That's where it goes. It goes to the investigation. To the special investigations unit of this particular crime. It's... At the end, we get another little catchphrase from Neely to Reacher this time. What does she say? It's not... If I tell you you're a good friend, I think is what she says. And he says, not nearly enough. Because literally 80% of the dialogue in this series is catchphrases. Then they're at the bus stop. And, then we get a Dixon romance scene, and they don't show anything, but, they're banging. We're reminded of that. They don't have any chemistry, and the sex scenes are boring this season, but hey, whatever. And then they go to the bus. Neely drops Reacher at the bus, and she's like, I know you say that the Special Investigations Unit are your friends, but we're more than that, right? And we're all sort of, I was expecting Reacher to be like, yeah, your family. Or whatever. But he didn't, thank God. But then he gets on the bus with this old dude, and the old dude, like, immediately starts asking him questions. Like, where are you headed? Where are you coming from? It's like, dude, why are you talking to him? What is the point of this scene at the end? Just so he can say he doesn't know where he's going? Like, we know he doesn't know. He can just sit on the bus and look out the window. You achieve the same effect. Why are so many stupid scenes included when you could just show it? It's a fucking visual medium. Just show Reacher getting on the bus and looking out the window and driving off into the distance. We don't know where. He doesn't know where. Unless this old man has some other significance, there's no reason to him to be talking at all, or for us to have that scene at all. I give this season a D. And it only gets a D instead of an F because there were some fun fight scenes, and I like Alan Ritchson. Overall, I like him as Reacher. He was not used to his fullest ability. He put on way too much muscle for this season. He doesn't look as good as he did the prior season. He looks funny when he runs. But I like him. He's a likable guy, and I think he's good as Reacher, and I want to see... I hope Season 3 does this series justice, because it didn't this season. It really shit the bed. And it really did not utilize the strengths of its stories, the books that it's based on, or its lead actor, and really the premise of its main character as this lone wolf wandering through the lost byways and highways in small towns of America, foiling bad guys at every turn, not just because he's got large biceps, but because of his brain. So let me know what you thought of the Season 2 finale and the shit show that led up to it in the comments. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace.